Okay, it is January the 28th, Sunday evening, a little bit over an hour after the weekly open. Let's do the market outlook and plans for the week ahead. So obviously, let's go ahead and start off with the events for the week. The major event is going to be the FOMC on Wednesday. I really don't take too much consideration for these sorts of events with my trading, but it is just a good idea to make a mental note of when these things are occurring. And we can probably expect a little bit of extra volatility on that day. But again, these things aren't really that important to my trading these days. The other thing to point out before we get into the rundown is going to be observing flows, right? So we'll highlight this more in the flow section, but paying attention to the flows during the early New York and later into the New York session is going to be incredibly important. Premiums have dissipated, and as long as the spot selling doesn't come in harsh at the beginning of the week, it does look like local lows are in. So let's go ahead and get into some of the more nitty-gritty stuff and cover the plans. So we'll start off on the higher time frame. As far as higher time frame goes, nothing has really changed on the higher time frame, right? We are just wedged between 44 and 38. As far as the plans go, everything remains the same. While we're in this range, we expect to continue to build it out and go sideways. Sideways is almost always the most damaging thing, or maybe not the most damaging, but it's one of the most damaging things that can happen to market participants. So I do think that we will get continued sideways for the time being within this range. That's obviously not an accurate representation of the range at all. If we start to get over 44k, then the target remains the same of 54k for the upside target. The downside target below 38k remains the same of 32k. If for some reason we get the downside break, 32k is the ultimate buy the dip zone. But as it stands, I really don't think that we need to be worried about that too much, until some really bearish flows start to come in. So yeah, I mean, essentially from a higher time frame standpoint, everything remains the same. I'm still macro bullish, but on the medium time frame approach, I'm definitely a lot more conservative because the yearly structure since the start of the year has been pretty rough across the entire market, with only a select few alts have been able to maintain their uptrends. So as Bitcoin's developing, I really do think that it makes sense to be conservative for the time being until a more definitive setup comes our way. Before we get into the medium time frame, just going to take a quick look at the monthly developing VWAP. And my main concern right now, basically, whenever you're in January, your monthly, quarterly, and yearly are all going to be the same VWAP. As it stands, the current developing VWAP is actually, kind of bearish. I would describe this as neutral bearish. From a structure standpoint, price is consistently trading below, and the slope is starting to slope downwards. So bulls will need to start to try to interact with this VWAP and start to get back up into this kind of region and build value up higher to make this VWAP more bullish. Otherwise, I think that any sort of moves up into the 43, 44k kind of region are subject to get bonked down. Again, I think that the most important thing this week for me is going to be paying very, very close attention to spot flows. The discounts have subsided, and we're at a stage now where spots consistently trading above all the perps. So from a derivative standpoint, the market's definitely reset, but it really just comes down to the main question of is the Coinbase seller going to start to come back and smack? If they start to come back in and you start to see, the main thing that you're going to be looking for is seeing the discount start to return. If the Coinbase discount starts to return, you need to be bearish, in my opinion. But as long as the longer that's maintained, a neutral spread, the more optimistic we can have with our outlook. For more information, check out the Paragon group with the link below, where I cover everything from how I trade to how you can develop your own style. So let's go ahead and get into the medium time frame and kind of cover some of the plans I was looking at. So keeping it really simple right now. I'm not going to lie, this immediate structuring looks really bullish, but the overall range, right, we still need to reclaim the monthly and the 30-day rolling, right? So as it stands, this is kind of, the larger range is very neutral. The immediate price action looks bullish, and I do think we'll probably be able to trade up higher, but this is kind of a really tricky zone between 42 and 44, basically, where I don't really want to be trying to open any higher time frame positions. So my core plans are basically, if we start to get back into the, if we start to compress and build value into the upper areas within the macro composite range, then I'm probably going to look to get really risk on at that point. My original plan was one more sweep down into 38, but the market doesn't care about what my plan is, right? So again, all this is going to come back down to these premiums, right? The fact that Coinbase, the Coinbase discount is completely dissipated and is basically trading on par with Binance now, is definitely a more optimistic picture. But at the end of the day, I have no idea if the Coinbase seller is going to start to come back in again. So these were the two kind of higher time frame or medium-ish time frame triggers. I'm not saying I won't trade around in the middle here for lower time frame stuff, but for higher time frame, getting positioned for the next kind of major leg in the market, I don't really see the reasoning just yet to be overly optimistic with that stuff. So let's go ahead and get into some shitcoins. The first one I wanted to talk about was going to be Solana. So this is the main one that I'm waiting to buy back spot on. I really have zero interest in buying any ETH or anything. Solana is the one that I want to buy back. We're still below where I sold my Solana at, so for the time being, I'm chilling. There is a scenario where we start to get back above like 105-ish is what I'm looking at. I have the front run alert. If we start to get back and start to build value into this kind of region and start to get above the yearly, and see some compression up here, I'm probably going to be looking to kind of buy the shallow dip for the continuation for the VWAP flip. So that's kind of what I'm looking for on Solana to get bullish. But as long as the yearly develops this way, where it's sloped downwards, price is consistently below, and we're getting rejected off of it, I don't like the way that looks. So, I could be just bear posting the bottom on Solana, but I want to wait for a more legitimate reason to take the risk. And yeah, hopefully everything goes well. Cheers, everybody.